Hey, this is Sam Black, and today I want to show you some games with this very unusual Marvel deck. The story behind this is I was watching Paul Cheon's stream, and Jesse Hampton posted a linked to a picture of this deck that he built, I assume, that he was asking Paul to try playing, but Paul had kind of sworn off Marvel, so I took a look at it, and I definitely thought it was doing some unique and interesting things, so I figured I'd give it a try. So let me just go over what's going on in this deck, because it really is pretty unusual. And the first thing to note about this deck is that it's basically playing all the best cards, and it's only two colors. And usually the cards aren't cards that you think of as being cards that go together, and it's interesting to note that they kind of can. So basically, Ishkana and Gideon are kind of the centerpieces of the two biggest decks in the format, and then one could argue that Smuggler's Copter is the centerpiece of the third, although also in blue-white. And this deck manages to get it all together. So basically you have both the Ishkana with Vessel of Nascency and Emrakul from Green-Black Delirium, alongside Smuggler's Copter and Thraben Inspector and Gideon from every white deck, with Marvel from the Marvel deck. And those are a lot of very disparate pieces that seem kind of difficult to fit together, but it actually kind of works because the key first point is really minimizing the Aetherworks Marvel package. The only ways to get energy in this deck are 4 Aether Hub, 4 Attune with Aether, 4 Servant to the Conduit, 4 Aetherworks Marvel, and 1 Aether Storm Rock. So there are no puzzle knots, which means that it's extremely unlikely that you're going to be able to activate Aetherworks Marvel on turn 4. That's not what the deck's trying to do. Aetherworks Marvel is a way to go over the top of the slower decks. When you resolve it, then this Creature Delirium game that you're playing, you're actually really using Aetherworks Marvel's first ability, that you get an energy whenever a permanent you control is put into the graveyard. Now, when you sack a clue to Thraben Inspector, you get an energy. When you chump block with Thraben Inspector, you get an energy. When you use Vessel of Nascency, you get an energy. When you block with a Spider token, you get an energy. And at some point, you're going to be able to activate Aetherworks Marvel, and you can hit Emrakul or Ishkana, but hitting Gideon or Stasis Snare, it's also a completely fine thing to do. Then we have a really good diversity of card types. 15 creatures, 8 artifacts, 8 enchantments, 4 planeswalkers, 4 sorceries, couple Evolving Wilds, and then other lands can go to the graveyard when you use Vessel. And then we have Smuggler's Copter to really tie it all together. It is good at turning on Delirium because we have so many different card types, which sometimes don't automatically put themselves in the graveyard, but Smuggler's Copter can easily choose what to discard to specifically work to enable Delirium, and it can also let us get rid of a Marvel if we're nowhere near using it, get rid of an Emrakul if we're nowhere near casting that, or alternatively dig toward those things, toward the big game if we are in a kind of board stalled situation or whatever. So interesting take. It manages to just play a ton of great cards and get them all together, and it has a lot of synergies between them, but none of the cards are pushed to their fullest. We're a little shy on especially flying blockers for Gideon. and we're somewhat likely to be behind on board with Gideon because we have these more expensive cards like Aetherworks Marvel and Emrakul and Ishkana that don't come down first to protect it, and we have these early plays like Attune with Aether and Vessel that don't protect Gideon. So Gideon is going to be really good at threatening control decks, but maybe not super good at blocking against aggressive decks, especially aggressive decks with flyers. And Ishkana, like, we do have decent diversity of card types, but a lot of them don't naturally go to the graveyard. So specifically, if we don't draw Vessel of Nascency, and if we don't get to activate a Smuggler's Copter, it can be pretty hard to have Delirium. And in general, we just don't have that much removal. We only have 4 Stasis Snares. So that means that we have some vulnerabilities. So just a really interesting mix of advantages and disadvantages that position the deck pretty differently from other decks that we've seen in the format, but with such high raw power level that it definitely seemed interesting to me to explore. So looking over at the sideboard, it's clear that this deck is really interested in winning longer games. It's more concerned with beating the mid-range and control decks in the format than it is with shoring up its aggressive matchups. Against aggressive decks, we get 2 Declaration in Stone, 2 Fumigate, 1 Linvala, and 2 Natural State, which is not a terribly small number of cards, but a lot of our cards in the main deck can also take a while to get going. So it's not necessarily as much as I might want in those spots. But then against control decks, we have 4 Tireless Tracker, 1 Nissa Vital Force, 3 Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. So there, we can, if Stasis Snare isn't necessary, or if they're going to be reliably answering our Smuggler's Copters, maybe, we can move away from those things and basically become a better grindy deck, a better Marvel deck, get Tireless Tracker, get Ulamog, and just plan to present more threats, more card advantage, and ultimately get to this Eldrazi game that goes over the top of everyone else. So that's the deck, and next I'm going to show you some matches.